It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
It's Barnet Bain here on Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Yes, and
I
Freeman Michaels.
forgot where I was with my friend and co-host, Freeman Michaels. How are you, Freeman?
Great to be here. And
It is Cutting Edge Consciousness here.
Is it?
Right? I'm in the
I
right
don't know.
studio.
in the right studio. We have been moved before. You remember we were over in the Octopus one time?
I like the octopus.
Did you like that one?
I like that.
It was
room.
a little cramped. There's live on
It
a
was
5 over here,
woomy.
too.
It was woomy.
In the KKZZ, well, the KKZZ studio is actually the largest of all of them, but they are, I don't know, there's maybe 6 studios in here, so sometimes
Because we have the flag.
we get bumped. Is it the flag that makes it
Flag
so
that you have
special?
to unfurl the flag in here.
So let's talk about the work we've been doing, because I'm excited, Barnett.
You want to talk about your creative advantage?
about the book we're writing,
Yeah.
Because it's really a thrill to take the process I've been working with, which I was calling service to self, and now integrate it with you into this very exciting curriculum. Because, look, I can help people. The work I was doing was great, and the format and the way it brought people through the process was great. But what working on this has done is it's opened up. It's done 2 things for me. It's opened up a whole new avenue. It's pushed me personally out beyond the sort of what I learned and knew and so forth and so on into this realm of expanded possibility that is unending. And it's a new orientation. So much of what I worked with before was sort of what we've called second story. It's about overcoming the things that
What that happened to you?
that happened to me.
The story that things happened to me. This happened to me, then that happened to me, then this happened to me. The ways of the world happened to me.
And moving into this new possibility of a future that's yet unfolding. And what is so beautiful for me is it's tapping into so much of what I worked with when I was an actor. And I feel like a part of me is still an actor. In fact, the quote, I'm going to ask you to read that quote that you have. That's so fantastic, because I feel more in my creative essence today than I ever have. Acting for me was a kind of split for me. In other words, I had this acting experience and this actor self, and then I had this other self that I lived most of my day in. The self that I lived most of my day in was really within the construct. It was scripted. It was filled with agreements. It was limiting. This actor experience was this outlet for me.
Well, I want to just jump into
Yeah,
what you're saying
please.
before you, because this is a hugely significant opportunity here. During the day, your non-acting life was filled with scripts and agreements and judgments and assumptions and histories and themes.
You bet.
And then you were about to say, in your acting career, there was something that was, I'm going to assume I know where you're going now. There were scripts that were handed to you.
And I had the ability to create with them. So even though there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and there's an objective, if you will,
You
for the
felt
character,
more empowered there.
absolutely. I felt
And
more alive.
Here's the paradox. We love that word here on this show. It's our big word. So the paradox is that, and what your creative advantage, so much of what your creative advantage is all about, is that just as an actor becomes very intimate and very close to the backstory, the history of the characters,
Absolutely.
the conditions of the world that informed the character, that this is what is always referred to when you hear when you read in People magazine about actors and directors going off and investigating the character and doing character work. They are building the backstory, what happened and what were the circumstances and what are the conditions of the world that all conspired for story to form, to have input and influence on the choices and decisions and actions that this character makes. Well, what your creative advantage is about is as an actor does this as part of their actor homework in order to craft a character, we submit that we can use the same tools in our own lives
Absolutely.
in order to become very intimate with our personal conditionings so that we understand our own actions and our own behaviors. We undertake our own character investigation, and out of that we are suddenly liberated and free to make the same kinds of choices as an actor makes inside of a play or inside of a movie.
And that's what's so exciting as an actor. There's one other piece of language is that all of that work, the languaging is to embody the character, to fully embody the character. You have to, when you play a bad guy, and I've had the opportunity several times to play the quote-unquote bad guy, which is the most fun because A, it's a character expression, but you have to believe in the story the character's telling 100%. You have to be the advocate of that guy's agenda. So what's interesting in this experience is to watch the manipulation on my own internal process to be able to direct my experience the way I want it to go. Now, in this sense, I'm not looking to play that character out in real life. It's an exploration of a character aspect that allows me to really fill in all of those character pieces, have them, own them, experience them, express them. That's what we talk about doing in constructive ways. So if we have a shadow piece that wants to come out, and let's say it's even very dark, a big part of the practices that we help people create is some form of expression for that character piece.
And there is gold in the dark.
We want to own it.
We want to understand where the light is, where is the power in even the most darkest
That's right.
Emotion, the most darkest experience, the most darkest condition. There is a power in that. Sometimes there is an energetic power in feeling enraged.
Yeah.
There is a power there is a energy in the feeling of helplessness. There is a juice in the darkest thing, and when we can harvest out from these dark experiences that quality of energy, the energy of itself, and it's an almost alchemical process, magical process that we extract from the darkness the life force, the light of it. In the substance there is light, and we pull that out, and that can be used to any good purpose, to all kinds of good purpose.
Well, it gives dimension to humanity. Look, everything that has ever been destructive within the human experience is a disowned character aspect. It's some part of us that we don't know what to do with. It gets repressed, and it gets expressed in extremes because it's this disowned self that takes over and becomes what defines us. These leaking out behaviors that become identifying. So for example, insecurity can get expressed as trying to dominate and control, a personality trait where someone who feels profoundly insecure, their entire self they put out is this dominating, controlling, manipulative persona, because it's in reaction to the part of them that feels insecure. So to be able to really own those shadow pieces, own them, and own the ways that we see them being expressed, we can pull them in and we can begin to construct authentically with our experience. It gives everything dimension, because life doesn't happen in black and whites, and there are no good guys and bad guys. When we see a script or a movie that has dimensional characters, there's not a bad guy playing a bad guy. There's a human being under circumstances reacting in a particular way. When those characters are rich like that, it's dimensional, it's human, and we're drawn in. So often in our world, we've delineated to good guys and bad guys. We want it spelled out for us. We want to see the bad guy get his in the end of the movie.
Well, in your creative advantage, we do wrap our arms around this to the extent that we begin to see the shades of gray.
That's it.
In the characters that we play. And we begin to also see that we play numerous roles. And we put on different makeup and different costumes for so many roles. I myself am a lover and a father and a husband and a friend, husband and lover to the same. Just Sandy, it's okay. Just saying. So, and a friend and a artist and a filmmaker, and I mean, I can go on and on and on and on. In fact, as an exercise at one point, I went on for almost a full day. And as part of your creative advantage, we do offer these kinds of exercises. Absolutely. Where you can spend the good part of let me just say, a lot longer than you would ever dream, identifying more and more and more roles that some of them they don't instantly come to mind, but there are so many layers of roles that we all express and we all play. And it becomes mind-boggling, and there's a lot of freedom in owning these things. And we see how very often our behaviors are very, very distinct from and differentiated from one role to the next. I am not at all the same man I am with my wife than I am with my mother, for instance, when my mother was alive, or with friends, or with a boss. And you know, and there is a story that some people say, well, you have to be the same person all the time. That would be the first person in history who would be the same all the time. That is not the nature of who we are.
And that guy's going to have a midlife crisis. That guy's going to have a major crisis at the point that he's repeating
because we
something
become,
as a self.
We become in denial of all of the forces, of all the emotional experiences, and then that's the next piece that we look into deeply in your creative advantage is the relationships that we have with our emotions, and the emotions generated out of all of the various roles that we play, that we assign ourselves, or that sometimes we find have been assigned to us, sometimes willingly, sometimes not willingly, sometimes consciously, sometimes not consciously. And they all generate feelings. And those feelings are the wellspring of all kinds of creative impulses and creative energies. And to the extent that we can become very familiar and become conduits in the way that healers are able to tap into certain kind of energy structures in the body or in the field and allow them to dissipate and move through. We do that for ourselves. We become very close to these emotional experiences, and we go into, sometimes we actually feel we're going to be lost in them, as any good actor knows. Actors are virtuosos. They're maestros of this. But to do that with the consciousness that it is being used for another purpose, for an alchemical purpose almost. So you go into this experience willing to step up to the anxieties, the fears that if I really feel this, I may not come out. We always come out. No one is ever sent off to an asylum. People always come out. Even actors, it may not look like it, but they always come out. So we go in consciously and we feel this, and it frees up power. It frees up juice.
It frees up energy.
Because
and all we're talking about is blocked energy. Is that what we're talking about?
And what is that energy? Where else can it be used, Freeman?
Well,
when you free up energy?
As we respond inwardly, and we become intimate with these aspects of ourselves, with these feelings and with these sensations, and we begin to
free energy.
We begin to relate to them, and then what happens is everything that we're experiencing in our life, as it were, is an expression of some parts of us, some internal parts of us that are showing up in our world as manifestations. They're showing up as things and as people and as situations. And so what happens as we respond inwardly is we then begin to learn how to respond externally. In fact, we begin to express.
You can manifest more things.
As we express externally and we express on the sensory level, we're talking about, and if this seems obscure, I think we can nail it down.
Let's pull it back so it's not obscure.
Well, I don't want it to
fun,
be.
More health, more creativity,
more
better
juice.
Relationships,
more juice,
more satisfying
aliveness.
work. More aliveness.
And that's the simplest way to say it, because as we become intimate with what's the quality underneath something, what's the essence of it, what's the feeling of it, and then what do I want to consciously attach that to or project it onto? Because it's already coming in as something that we're identified with. Now, to really own that consciously, because it's unconscious. What we're drawing in is affecting us in an unconscious way. As we become conscious of it and begin to then project it out, express it out.
We just have to feel it.
Our world matches up with that.
It's felt and it's released.
That's it.
And when it's felt and it's released,
it's fluid.
It's like having a stack of chips on the table, the blackjack table in Vegas. You feel it. It's the equivalent of taking those chips that you didn't know you had to the cashier. They get cashed. You suddenly have more chips to play. You suddenly have more resources. When they are not felt, those chips go under the table. They get them off your game. They come out of your life. We only have a set amount of chips.
Let me say it in
game.
very simple terms. If we own as much of our self, the selves internally, that we really become stewards of the energetics of our experience from the past that's coming in and being reflected back to us. We own the whole thing. As we do that, we really become good at that. And that takes some skill, and we have tools to help people with that. Then the ability to project out qualities, experiences, essences, the world matches up. It becomes an energetic flow. That's the creative process. It's an energy. That's what creativity is. It's a matching up of energy. To the degree we can do that consciously, then the whole thing opens up. All possibility opens up.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So we become willing and explorers of our emotional lives.
Yep.
We tap into the emotions. We feel the emotions. It frees up energy for more of the wonderful good stuff. It allows us to go off trail, and it allows things
to come in.
Happy synchronicities to come in. So we cover those opportunities. We do some work in the same way that actors begin to go down into their subconscious experience in order to find motives, in order to find triggers, in order to find gold that they bring to a performance.
That's right.
We begin to excavate. We like to talk of it in terms of going down into the basement and seeing what we have stored there and behind locked doors. We have all kinds of things down there that leak out in our behaviors and leak out in our talk.
It's these pieces of our backstory that we're not aware of, that we need to be aware of, so that we then are able to constructively express and view it coming back in the world, not as something happening to us, but as mirrors back to us of pieces of ourselves that we've denied, rejected, and disowned. So as we really own what's coming in as a reflection of the parts of us that are below the surface, then we can excavate and own that stuff. What it does, two things. It frees us up energetically, creatively. When we apply compassion to it, which is a wisdom, it's a way of seeing it with depth and a depth perception. Then we begin to see that in the world. We're relating in a very different way to what is happening. It's not happening to us. We're generating it. Yeah, that's the whole game.
We're causal.
And then we begin to play, because that's the fun side. Like, wow, okay, I see what's showing up. And even stuff that previously felt negative isn't anymore. It's like...
Well, it turns.
It's completely.
Then there is this piece, apropos to relationships that we have, stories that we have about, as you said, things that felt negative. We have stories about that.
Yeah.
So there's a critical piece that has to do with the techniques, the skills that allow us, empower us to more effectively let loose of the past.
Beautiful.
Not only let loose of the difficult stuff, and then often people kick back as well and are resistant to this, but also to hold very, very lightly the great stuff too. Not to say that we are asking anybody to alienate themselves from their relationships or for what is beautiful in their lives. That's not at all what we're saying. But often, I know personally, I have had many difficult chapters in my life. I've also had many bright successes in my life, and to hold too tightly to achievements or to successes or to an award. We all know the guys who are still, they're our age, but they're still talking about
Glory days.
They're still talking about the glory days of high school. Or football game is, the catching the pass and wearing the championship ring. These are experiences that need to be let go, because similar to having these chips on the table, you only have so many chips to play. And if all our energy is invested in the glory days, those chips are not there to pay or play.
Well, the past has we have a reference for the past that is only in the present. So to the degree that we own the past with the perspective that we're talking about, the present opens up, because we're not so tied to the stories of the past. We're not so tied to the scripts we've been running from the past.
And then
we're
we
available.
introduce vision. That
introduce
opens us up to vision, which has to do with reprogramming the subconscious and becoming an active player with our subconscious, so that the subconscious is not something that, as Freud used to say, that there are these forces that have influence and motivate us that we are separate from. Where we have evolved to now is to a place where we are in relationship with our subconscious minds, and we are able to work with it and to replace, as actors do, in a role. They pull things out, they implant things, they make certain subconscious behavioral decisions that percolate up in the performance. And in life, we have the same opportunity to lay into our subconscious almost the equivalent of programming into your computer new sets of programs and instructions, so that we have a sense of vision, we have a sense of direction, not to be out of the moment, but to have a sense of a certain kind of direction and a certain sort of outcome.
Well, and the vision is something that it's always opening to us. All the vision work is quality-based. It's the essence. It's the quality. It's what we're promoting. It's all tied to a natural expression. When we clean house, as it were, and we really own this backstory, and we own the scripts we play, and we own the patterns, we understand how we're repeating things. If we really can pull that in and then begin to imagine ourselves in the realm of expansion. Expansion happens when we take a thread and we allow it to grow into something. So the vision work is not tightly. Sometimes it starts as I envision a thing, or I envision a particular expression of something that I uncover as a quality I want more of. The thing is a placeholder. Because what we do is, as we invest in the quality and we promote the quality, we promote the intention, and we promote something that we're motivated from the inside. We have all these pieces that we're moving with very consciously out in what all manner of possibility begins to open up. That in and of itself seems like, okay, I don't know what that means. And the truth is, you can't really know what it means. If you take a dream of something where I've dreamt of being in a particular situation and teased out the qualities, and you promote the qualities, it can blow open that limitation of that dream, and any manner of amazing possibility can unfold. We call this stepping into the mystery. The mystery for most people is terrifying. They're scared of it. What we're talking about is an orientation that makes mystery exciting, because we have something. This path, we have something that we can root to, that's real, that we know we want more of, that we know we're promoting. We're willing to own everything that comes along with that. And then we move forward with that, and we allow it to unfold. From an actor's perspective, this is the whole idea of when you act with someone, you listen actively, and you stay with an intention, and you allow the energies to flow, and you're adaptive, and this incredible thing percolates up. It's amazing. And we're talking about the same principle, that we engage life with that same level of personal awareness, consciousness, and projected ideas.
So there is the trajectory that you are speaking of, and it is critical, and we cover it, and I think we do a really good job of covering it. And then comes a magical piece. Vision. We have a relationship with vision that is about building on, putting together the pieces, building on a dream in order to achieve a certain set of qualities, a certain set of functions. And that is beautiful and important and powerful. And then there's a shift that happens. Then there is another kind of visioning that is born out of a life of success, a life of achievement, that has nothing to do with trying to make our lives work or trying to get the quality of being down or trying to get the juicy good stuff, trying to get those good feelings. There comes a point when we have, it's not a perfection game, but there comes a point when that is sufficiently dialed in and futures, potential futures, optimal futures, a whole menu of futures begins to present itself, that we we are empowered to vision, to co-create, that we begin to generate magically, that we begin to generate out of an asking, that we begin to generate on the shoulders of a deep understanding of how the first story works, of how the second story works.
And we're well into the third story.
We're well into the third story at that point. And that becomes a relationship with vision that has to do with grace. So we'll get into, in your creative advantage, the nature of graceful creation. And graceful creation has to do with a vision that we respond to, and that is showered upon us because it is a natural birthright. It comes to us as effortlessly as grass grows, as flowers bloom. That's grace. It is our natural grace to be interactive with the world, to be interactive with all that is, to be interactive with creativity. So,
and it's the most profound expression of know thyself. It's the most profound expression.
Because that's the point when we have no idea.
Yeah.
We have no idea who the self is, and we start as the fool, and we generate wisdom, we become the wise fool, and then when the wise fool, the real wisdom of the wise fool is, here we go around to the next level, and now we know nothing again.
Fantastic.
So that's the thumbnail, folks, of your creative advantage.
Now we just need to finish the dang book.
Well,
we're working hard,
We're
though.
getting there. We're getting there.
All right. Well, listen, that's been a wonderful show. I'm glad we got a chance to run through it as we consciously work on it on a regular basis. And, of course, we will continue to, and you will continue to hear more about your creative advantage as you tune in more to Cutting Edge Consciousness. If you enjoy the show, please send it around, tell a friend, and keep coming back. Thanks for listening.